President Biden reauthorized warrantless surveillance. Could it be used against pro-Palestinian protesters?
There is a larger proportion of foreign-born activists in the Gaza protests. It would be easier, I would assume, for the government to kind of have a wink and a nod argument to say that this person that they attended these protests, we suspect might be, involved in some sort of terrorism because of kind of foreign links that that person might have.
In late April, President Biden extended Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act for at least 2 more years. That policy allows U.S. government agencies like the FBI to spy on and track people without a warrant by collecting their personal data, including private phone calls, emails, text messages, and more. The program was created in the aftermath of 9/11 to target foreign citizens in and outside of the U.S., but it has also been used against U.S. citizens. Trevor Aaronson, an investigative journalist that covers government agencies, says recent investigations have found that the agencies have been using it to target protesters in the U.S.
I think what's happened is that the FBI and other law enforcement agencies and intelligence agencies in the U.S. were given an extraordinary amount of power in the post 9/11 era. That in our fear of another attack, we basically said to the cops, "Hey, whatever you need, you can have." That initially resulted in a number of abuses that we saw of Muslim communities across the United States, the use of surveillance in these communities. But as the war on terror has waned, the powers that the FBI and other law enforcement agencies were given in the post 9/11 era hasn't been taken away. And so what we're seeing in some ways is a kind of war on terror turned inward.
Both Democratic and Republican members of Congress have spoken out against the policy's renewal because of how agencies allegedly abused it by targeting campaign donors, a member of Congress, and racial justice protesters, and violating their right to privacy. Aaronson says that agencies will often cite participation in protests as their basis for using 702 to track and spy on people.
That's what we began to see during the summer of 2020, that as a result of unrest during the Black Lives Matter movement, the FBI was incredibly concerned about the prospect of terrorism from within these racial justice groups. Even though the vast majority of protests were peaceful, the government and the FBI in particular really saw this movement as kind of the seeds of domestic extremism. And so what we know is that the government used bulk collection or NSA 702 data to identify people, to look up information on people who were attending these protests, which is just patently illegal.
At least one Republican lawmaker used the protests against Israel's assault on Gaza to advocate for the program to be extended, falsely claiming that pro-Palestinian protesters in New York had ties to Hamas. Protests against Israel's occupation and attacks against Palestinians are spreading across the country and on college campuses, including schools with foreign students. Experts say there may be reason for people to worry about how the 702 program could be used against pro-Palestinian protesters. Schools like Columbia are investigating students involved in Palestinian advocacy, and the FBI has already said it's coordinating with schools to monitor campus protests.
We don't have a window into this world very often, and I think that's the large problem, that so much of the FISA court operates in secret. If you are targeted by the FBI, there's no way to know you were targeted, and there's also no way to then appeal that targeting in any meaningful way.